some iron iron for him. They're going to go nuts when he hits this thing.
Yesterday's price is not today's price.
Yo, yo, yo. Welcome in, golf fans. This is the Preferred Lines Golf Gambling Podcast coming to you live each and every week, streaming live on YouTube, streaming live on X, audio version out on Spotify and Apple Pods, wherever you get your music, wherever you get your pods. That's where we're at. This program is proudly presented by the good folks over at Rotoballer. The promo code you're going to want to use if you want to join the team over there, myself, Spencer Aguiar, who was on the show last week, Model Maniac, who just biked halfway across Iowa, Joe Nicely, Matt Miller, Ian McNeil, all the boys come together each and every week to produce as much golf content as humanly possible. Theirs is fantastic. Mine is okay. You add it all together, it's like 33 cents a day using that promo code. The best deal in all of golf content. Come join the team. We would absolutely love to have you. We had an electric finish to the Olympics. It was an event that I was excited for, but also pleasantly surprised. I'm going to break down what we saw, some overarching storylines in the world of professional golf, as well as preview one of my favorite events on the PGA Tour schedule. It is the single most event that I have had the most good fortune in my history. Hit a huge DFS, have multiple winners at this event. I feel like I got this thing pegged. We'll see if we can do it again this week. Welcoming into the show for the first time, I'm super excited to talk to this man. You know him on Twitter, at Huey Mac. There's a bunch of numbers in there. I don't really know what it is. Kyle Hewitt, what's up? Thank you for making time on this Tuesday to join me after several flight delays, a day from hell. I had mentioned to you before we went hot that I just exploded a drink all over my computer. We persevere. Thanks for coming on the show. Explain your name, where you're from, and who your favorite golfer is.
Anytime. The name is a nickname a friend of mine who is no longer with us, sadly, gave to me a long time ago, and that has carried into the Twitter name. And then the numbers are just my lucky numbers. So it's, I started my Twitter as a total like sham kind of during
We all do.
Yeah. So I was somebody who always bet on golf. I kind of even pre-COVID days when I was in college. So my dad kind of fell in love with the game through him, and the handicapping came along the way. So started the Twitter kind of as a joke, and it's great because as you can attest to, there's so many good people in the community, and you meet so many kind of like-minded people. I was actually with people as well this weekend who I've literally Andy Lack, Brian Kirshner, John Bauer, all this week, all guys I met on Twitter who are near and dear. So it started again just kind of like as a joke, and throughout kind of 3 or 4 years, I guess it's been now. There's been a small following amassed, and occasionally I'll hop on these shows and shoot the shit and give my mediocre golf picks as I was telling you I would provide.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what you've come to expect from this show. Happy that you joined us. Really enjoy listening to you and learning more about you on Andy and Brian's show. So wanted to have you come on. They're good friends. What I noticed about your account, and we all start them the same way, it's very easy, right, when you kind of have an anonymous Twitter account that not a whole lot of people follow, to get very negative, specifically in the gambling space. You don't really do that. You like to have fun with it, and I appreciate that about your stuff because you're not just a dickhead like some people. So thank you for that. Happy to talk to you. Let's start off with a hard-hitting topic. Scotty Scheffler wins the Olympics. Rate his 3 best wins of the season. How would you rank them? Is the Olympics in that 3? And if so, where does that fall in your opinion?
So I think, look, I'm going to continue to, I think he's such a good fit at Augusta that we almost like don't appreciate how like great of a win it was, how during some of the most difficult conditions, specifically on Saturday, he was hitting shots that like no other player was hitting and truly separated from the field. So I'm going to give him that. And then the two other ones to me, I mean, they were all, what was impressive about, these aren't the two for me, but was impressive about TPC, River Highlands, and Heritage. And Heritage is, of course, you said Wyndham's near and dear to you. Heritage, similar to me. That's kind of like one of my favorite tournaments. You try to find ways to fade Scotty. And like there are true courses that his greatnesses are slightly suppressed at. And like those are two courses where it was like, okay, I'm not as scared of fading Scotty this week. And then he wins both of the goddamn tournaments. So that was tough. But the two for me that the other two I think are, he was dead in the water at the Players, it seemed like. And then he just on Saturday in like the last 4 holes, I think he goes 3 under or something like that. And goes out and snatches that. And it was a very similar. I don't think Xander choked at the Players. I think Scotty went out and took it. It was kind of a combination of Rahm choking it away and Scotty really going absolutely insane on the back 9. But he also started birdie, which I think immediately put him kind of in the conversation. So those would be the 3 for me, I think, is Masters, Players, Olympics. But the other, the 2 honorable mentions are the ones that were courses I was never going to bet him at, and he won. So,
yep, I think you nailed it. I was interested where you would put the Olympics. I think, it's Tuesday. We've had a couple of days. I don't want to give extreme recency bias, but I do think the meaning of the Olympics felt grander than I could have imagined. And I think it speaks to you, not yourself, but when it seems like a narrative is forced on whether it be PGA Tour officials or whoever is in charge, telling us what's important, right? It never really pans out that way. Like you create these signature events or elevated events the year before, and you're trying to force this down our throats that these are now important events because they have more money. And this is what we decided are the 8 events a year that are more important than the rest. It doesn't hit home. It doesn't resonate with, I think, the players or the people who are watching and following the game. Moments like we saw early Sunday morning in Paris resonate, and they are what dictates importance because you can see it, and it has zero to do with money. It has zero to do, and people hammer Liv because they're like, Liv has no historical context. Like I can't go back 40 years ago and tell you who, won Liv UK, so it doesn't matter. It's not that either because you don't have that with the Olympics. We can't point to a Tiger Woods gold medal or a Jack Nicklaus or an Arnold Palmer and go back historically. But these moments just naturally form. And the Olympics had a major glow up moment in that you could see the importance of it. You had 2 players within 10 minutes cry, and Tom Kim and Scotty. You had the national anthem going. You had a tremendous leaderboard. I don't know that I've ever seen that emotion on Scotty, like when he poured in that putt on 17, like how excited he was. And it was just super cool to see it happen so organically like that. I wonder where we'll rate it, as time passes, because how long is a player's prime going to be? If he gets 8 years in his prime, that's tremendously long. And then he gets to play 3 Olympics over that time. He'll play in the same 8 years. He's going to play 32 major championships. So it's hard for me to really say. I right now I'm going to put the Players second because of the difficulty there. But to see him storm, and what's interesting about Scotty is I think we all understand how controlled he is, and really how he really picks and chooses his spots to be aggressive. By nature, in most tournaments, he does not play very aggressively. He takes very conservative lines, I think, into greens, plays smart golf. The Sunday at the Players Championship that I was there, he played uber aggressive. This Sunday in Paris, he played so aggressively to win, and it just goes to show you that he has that gear, right? When it's time to kick it into 4th gear and attack pins that no one else is doing, he's also the best at that, which was pretty cool to see. And congrats to him on a historic season. And I'm sure he'll win the Tour Championship by 6 or 7.
Yeah, I mean, I guess two things just to piggyback off that, like your point on the shots that nobody else was hitting. I think it was 16 on Sunday. Is that the last par 3 where nobody was getting that close, and he just goes right at it and puts it to like 7 feet and then bangs the putt. So even on 18, he went his shot was in such thick rough, and that finishing hole's over water. And not an easy shot for him to put it. I think it was probably like a 180-yard plus second shot in from the thick stuff. And just he made it look so easy, hits it to like 25 feet. And that shot was nowhere, like not at all as easy as he made it look. So he just, he has that soul snatching ability, like Boogeyman. I always joke, like, the Cranberries, he's zombie. You can't kill the guy. He's always lingering. So that's why you got the 2 Cranberry song references and zombie and linger. He's really unbelievable. It's almost one of those things where like the floor is the ceiling for him, which is crazy. And that's what makes him so good. And I think to your point as well, and then, we can go elsewhere, but to your point about it meaning more, like even Rahm, who took the bag from Liv, if you read the post kind of round interview that he had, like he literally was like, I let Spain down. I totally choked that away. Like that one's going to take a while to get over. And then you see Scotty, to your point, like as the national anthem is playing, literally in tears and probably showing more emotion when he pours in that putt than we see him show in majors at times.
Yeah.
And they're playing for $0, right? Like,
this is probably his worst payday of the year. And won a gold medal.
It means that much to them. And even Tommy, it meant a lot to him. Hideki clearly means a lot to him. I think he's played he's one of the few guys that's played in all of them. And then look at Tom Kim, to your point, right? Like guys literally in tears coming off because he had a chance to medal and get out of military service and wasn't able to do it. So it just seemed to mean more. And it's so rare when you see professional athletes care that much. Like, and not that I think most professional athletes got into sports because they love sports, not because of money. So it's cool to kind of turn back the clock and watch them be able to play for like how they grew up, right? It's not always for money. It's for the love of the game at times and for the pride of the country. So I think the last thing I'll say about it is like, we talk about like what the Olympics will mean one day. I think that the fact that like, and it might not have happened this way, but the fact that Rose won the first one, Xander won the second one, and now Scotty's won the third, like I think that makes it like me. I mean, it's only been 3 years and it's hard to quantify what that'll be, but in 4 years from now, we're going to Riviera, right? And then 4 years from that, that's where the Olympics will be. It'll be in LA and it's being played at Riv. 4 years from that, it's going to be in Australia, and the courses in Australia are unbelievable. I don't think they've announced where it is, but there's some unbelievable tracks there. So I think it's going to become bigger and bigger in the next kind of coming events.
Yeah, it's a snowball rolling downhill and building momentum. Part of that is, like you mentioned, because of the people that have won, but it's since the start in Rio, it's kind of been up against it. Like that had no pulse in Rio, even though Rose won. The course was terrible. The coverage was awful. Tokyo, it was kind of unfair because I think Japan really would have gotten behind that event. And then obviously COVID, it was shut down. You've got Xander in masks on the podium. But it felt you could really feel the fans sort of get into it. And I'm super excited for the next one that's going to be in the United States. I think the atmosphere could be crazy, but I don't know. But here's my thing. The atmosphere at Riviera, I love that course. That event is kind of dead feeling. Like there's no pulse to that crowd there. Like if it was at Bethpage or somewhere like that, like it would be bananas. You would hear USA chants. Like it would feel very much like start to give you some Ryder Cup type vibes. I think Australia is going to be insane. I don't think that they've announced where the one after that is, but you can really start to see these nations get behind it. Obviously, the players are in. What was cool to me and what I think makes it different is like just the Olympics as a whole brings something out of it and brings a new level to like the athletics of it. Like when you see Shane Lowry talk about carrying the flag for Ireland, in the opening ceremonies, when you see Scotty, like, I love how he kind of like joked about like his legacy and what it means, but also like he took his wife and his newborn like to gymnastics and to swimming and to like go support Team USA and to like do these things as like a once in a lifetime opportunity to like go see Simone Biles. And I think that resonated with him. I think it brought a lot of pride. And I think it really, those type of things enhance the event, because there's nothing else like that running simultaneously with golf tournaments where you feel like you're competing for yourself, but you're also competing within this team of Americans. And you're like not only Wyndham, Xander, and Colin, but you're competing with all of Team USA, which I thought made it really cool and really unique. And I'm excited for the next one.
Yeah, I mean the leaderboard too. I think you alluded to this, but like it was one of the best leaderboards heading into Sunday, and then finishing in terms of like it reminded me of, and this is just an example that sticks to me. I'm sure there's been more recent, but when Rahm won the U.S. Open at Torrey Pines, on going into the back nine, there was 10 guys that could have won the tournament. It had that feel. Rory got to 16 under, and right when he had a chance to really he goes into the water. But there was guys like when Rahm came back, there was 5 to 7 guys that legitimately, Victor Perez was like coming up the leaderboard out of nowhere, like almost grabbed a bronze medal. So it really was cool that the leaderboard played out that way. And then on top of that, like it looked like it was going to be a runaway on Sunday, and then out of nowhere it becomes this tournament on the back nine where it seems like 5 guys have a chance to win with like 5 holes to play. So that kind of played into, I think the better atmosphere. To your point, I totally agree with the first Olympics they did was like dead. Like that was it was great that Justin Rose won, but like odd vibes, odd course. So I'm excited to see what comes in terms of the next 8 years of Olympics. But the one thing that will be cool at Riv, and I think this is what Key Wallace meant to say, the 18th hole should be a sick finishing hole. Yeah. If there's really guys coming down, they put people up that hill, like they have just people all the way up that hill. That could be a really cool finishing stretch if it's close down the stretch. So I'm excited.
Yeah, for sure. Karam had a good point, said it was the most enjoyable tournament of the year. I brought it, except Peter Malnati. Like, that's the thing, is the most meaningful moments, like the best moments of the year, it's never really about the cash. It's never about how much, like, even like with what's going on, and I'm not all the way in on the politics, but I know I've seen some stuff about what's going on in Venezuela right now, like what Johnny Vegas was able to do with his family there, who had never really seen him win. It was 7 years. Perseverance like that in those situations are what really drives emotion in sport and what makes us care.
Yeah, exactly. So that's it becomes that much easier to connect to the athletes too that way. So totally agree.
Where are you at with where do you put John Rahm? Let's say we were going to tier players, and I know Scotty is in a tier of his own, but that's typically not how tiers work. If we were to put, say, 5 players in tier A, best players in the world right now, does Rahm make that tier for you still?
So if you're talking about based on his year, I would say you could argue no. If we're looking ahead, and this is kind of a cop-out of an answer, but I think he's going to be right back in that top 5 conversation next year. I really do. So if he's not there now, I'm we were talking about him after he won the Masters, and in kind of a crazy, this guy could be Seve-esque and could be the, one of the best golfers to ever be from Spain. And I truly think he still has that drive. I truly think he still has that upside. And yeah, I think he's still a tier 1 golfer for me right now.
I'm torn.
It was a tier 1 choke job as well for what it's
was a choke job.
Also 6 under through 10 though. It was like a weird.
It's tough. Like, that's a tough course to close on, man. The back nine is hard. All that water. like Scotty comes, boogeyman is coming to get you, and there ain't nothing you could do. He's birding holes that other guys are trying to hang on for dear life and make par. That's a tough situation. It's kind of like, it's kind of like Xander at the Players. It reminds me of, like, did he choke? Yeah, it was a little different for Rahm given the circumstances. It wasn't a good look. I'm still willing to forgive him that there. If I've got to put, my tier A, it's obviously Scotty, it's Xander, it's Bryson, top 3 for me. And if I'm putting 5 guys in there, it's Rory, Rahm.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think based on form, you could say Colin, but Colin hasn't he's had a chance. I feel like he's had a chance to surpass Rahm, honestly, this year but he didn't really win anything. He had a great year, but he didn't win anything. Yeah. So he needs to get back in the winner circle. I think Rahm. It's tough for Rahm, for us as well, to quantify with the live stuff. I truly believe live is just harder to quantify. I bet on it too. So I'm trying to quantify it. But it's not always ones and zeros there.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I mean, I'm with you. The thing is, if Bryson doesn't win a major this year, I feel like people aren't as ready to put him back in the top 5, but he had an incredible year. So I'm with you on those guys.
What else do I want to ask about? Oh, from the Olympics. You catch any of this Xander post game where he kind of took a little shot at Rory a little bit? I'm interested in this. I think this is a storyline nobody's really taught. It's funny to me. I can see Xander coming out of his shell slowly. I hope we get more moments like this. I love a little shit talk in golf every now and then. He wasn't wrong. We know who his best friend is. I think it just starts to create interesting storylines when these guys bring a little competitive fire and aren't afraid to say what's on their mind. He had no reason to take that shot. The question was asked about it, but I think a year ago he could have easily skirted his way around it. They were more talking about the topic than Rory saying it. I just thought it was an interesting little tiff that we may get of 2 top 5 players in the world. A little, it's nice to have a little rivalry in golf every now and then.
Absolutely. And something I didn't think about, because I was heading back from Lake Placid. I was driving back with Andy. I think I saw that and I sent it to him just because Andy's a huge Rory guy. I was trying to get his blood boiling a little bit.
Yeah.
And I showed him it, and I was like, what do you think? And he mentioned, this was a good point, and I don't even know if Xander was doing this in
huge Xander guy also, Andy.
Yeah. I don't know if he was doing this in regards to this, but the story about the pay at the Ryder Cup or wanting to get paid was about Xander and Cantlay, apparently. And again, everybody says that was bullshit, whatever, but I don't know. Usually there's some truth to some of these things that come out. But he was saying that was it might have been a shot back at Rory, because Rory was saying all these events, no money, it doesn't matter, they're the best events, and he was thinking maybe Xander felt like he was getting a shot taken at him. So then when he got asked the question about Rory, it wasn't even about Rory. I don't know why I said that, but he just took. Yeah. He just it was a Rory quote, so he just he took the shot back at him. But yeah, he could have easily have not taken that shot at Rory,
exactly,
and kind of went out of his way too.
And I'm here for that beef.
So did you watch the video? Did you watch him say it? I read it, so it's no, different.
Just read it, okay. just clickbait, just pure clickbait. Saw it, and I was like, I kind of like this.
Yeah. I'm curious, how he looked saying it. You never know. When you read in a quote, immediately you're like, wow, that's he's throwing that shade. But I'm just curious, kind of what he looked like saying it as well. So,
well, it's funny because I feel like we don't we go through these phases, and Scotty is never going to obviously besides having the PGA, but he's never gonna I feel shit on other players, or he's never gonna turn anything into he's never gonna turn heel. Right? He just can't. He's too good. I think we need this a little bit. It was nice when Rahm was disliked a little bit, I think, and created a little, the Brooks and Bryson thing, all these things, I think, bring a little added fire and sauce. You saw how much it was covered in the national media. And I think that we want some of that in sport. We want a little rivalry. We want to choose a side, right? We don't want to just root for everyone. They're all good guys. They're all best friends playing out there. We want to choose a side, and you can argue who's right or wrong, but I think two of the top players in the world, maybe not always being best of friends and being vocal about it openly, could be cool.
Yeah, I just think like seeing emotions in sports too. Like I think that's part of what made Bryson's year so special. Like, you know,
Yes.
I was talking with Andy and Brian, and we were talking and just doing like a major recap, and you know, like the best shot of the year in a major, like most people would probably say it's Bryson's shot out of the bunker, getting up and down on 18 at Pinehurst to win the U.S.
Sure.
Open. I was saying my favorite shot of the year, and it might not have been the best shot of the year, but it was my favorite shot of the year. I'll use this to flex that I was on Bryson at both the PGA and the U.S. Open as well. So that's part of what made it special as well. But I don't know if you remember, like 17 at the PGA at Valhalla, he hit a terrible drive and got the luckiest bounce ever back in his fairway.
Yeah, I know where you're going with this.
He's 230 out, and he hits this 8-iron.
Yeah.
From 230, and he's screaming at the ball as soon as he hits it.
Oh, it's so good.
He just sticks it to like 4 feet and hits the birdie putt. And I think that's what like that resonates with people. Like Bryson showed so much emotion throughout the majors this year. And like people were like, oh, like I don't like, you know, this guy made like because like not everybody loved Bryson like back when he was on the PGA Tour. And I actually think, you know, Andy said this, others have said this, like he's been one of the guys that's gone to live. And I really think it's been a good thing for him in terms of his brand, in terms of, you know, getting his health right. He looks better than I never thought the linebacker thing with Bryson had longevity to it. I think he looks healthier than he's ever looked before. And I think he resonates with people because he shows so much emotion when he plays. So I think that's all been a great thing for him. But back to your point of like these beefs and guys snapping out, it's all just a part of what makes sports kind of awesome. So
yeah, and there was a time like, okay, so I think when they're created this mold, and I think Tiger partially created this, of the professional golfer that is like so laser focused in on what he's doing on the course, like outside of the brim of his hat right here, it's all tunnel vision, right? I don't care what this guy is doing over there. I'm not paying attention. I'm not feeding into it. It's me, it's the course, and I'm so focused. But at the same time, what we forget is what a lot of people loved during that time was Phil, because Phil embraced fans. He's high-fiving people off the tee box. He's looking at people. He's making hand gestures. He's looking at kids and giving, you know what I mean? So I think people really resonated with that with Phil. And it was one of the things that I was so impressed with about Bryson at Pinehurst is his ability to maintain focus when he's over the ball, but also take in the moments and realize that I can be an entertainer also, and I can get these people behind me. And if I get these people behind me, I can use it as fuel. And I thought that was really cool and a unique way to take on it versus Tiger versus Brooks versus Dustin versus these guys that we see almost emotionless out there that are just, they block everything out, and that works for them. It's just different. It's nice. It was refreshing to see a different perspective and someone willing to embrace the environment and atmosphere.
Yeah, and even like Scotty has a little bit of the like he's not going to show you emotions. Like we were saying before, like he showed more emotions at the Olympics, which was like nothing, like 1 or 2 fist bumps. But he kind of is that opposite. So also what I heard Powers, who I like talking with as well, and like it's great on Twitter. He was saying when Bryson hit the tree on 17 at the PGA and it threw the ball back out, he said he was blowing kisses to the tree.
Oh,
just like being ridiculous, like just an absolutely like ridiculous entertainer, like so funny.
Yeah.
But
all right, let's talk a little bit of Sedgefield this week for the Wyndham. Love this event. Fond memories of this event. Those who have been with me from the start of Twitter will remember me live streaming while remodeling a bathroom in 2019 and cashing a big DFS ticket. Electric moment. Go back and check that if you haven't seen it, but it was probably my favorite moment on Twitter. I wouldn't be hosting a podcast probably if it wasn't for that moment. Love this event. Love Donnie Ross. 125-year-old course at Sedgefield that has still managed to stand the test of time. I like Donald Ross a lot. He's my favorite course designer. It's interesting because he uses the property and he doesn't build a golf course on paper and just drop it anywhere. He really uses the land and takes what it gives you. There's a course not too far away in Pinehurst that he designed. This is drastically different. It is a course that demands precision, a course that demands accuracy off the tee. I believe 2 years ago from the fairway, your numbers were like 80% greens in regulation rate. From the rough, it was down to 50%. It's a huge, huge difference in hitting from the fairway or rough. Got to be able to scramble here a little bit. I don't mean so much around the green game, but you have to be able to scramble. Greens are a little bit tiered. Some of them have some of those steep runoffs, but Bermuda grass greens in North Carolina. Obviously, we have some weather inclement this week. Par 70, 7,131 yards, likely going to be preferred lies all week in North Carolina due to the weather. I don't know if the data would back this up, if anyone has data on how players perform in strokes gained with preferred lies versus not. It may be out there. I haven't seen it, but I would like to think that it gives a little boost to players who are accurate off the tee. If you can put ball in hand and you're a professional player, you're going to hit the green. You're probably going to hit it to 15 feet a good majority of the time. Got to score on the par fours here. Par 4 birdie or better rates, I think, are key to success. It's one of the metrics that I've kind of always used at this event. Don't be afraid to play chalk in DFS. I can speak to that historically. In that lineup, I think I had a 35% Webb Simpson and a 30% Sung. Two highest players of the week in terms of ownership. Had them both in my lineup. Managed to beat 92,000 people. It's possible. Didn't get duped. You can play chalk, but be smart about where you differentiate with the rest of your lineup is, I guess, what I'm saying, because I think this is a predictive course. If someone is really good here, like the player at the top of the board, and they're in decent form, it's highly likely that they're going to have success once again, unless the weather dictates something otherwise. What do you have on this course, Kyle? Do you have anything to sort of add there?
I think you nailed it for the most part. I'm heavy emphasis on driving accuracy, total driving this week. I want guys who can drive the ball well, and I want guys who can get hot with the putter. Those are kind of the two leans for me. You want to play out of the fairways here. It's one of your kind of classical positional courses. Reminds me of your harbor towns, your Sea Isles, your TPC River Highlands, your more plotters courses. And it is, to your point, one of those courses that seems to have stickier course history. There's a lot of guys who, Webb is like the course history king here. Even last year, I think he finished 5th, and he had no form coming in last year. So he is always interesting, always an interesting option here. But yeah, no, I think that those are the big things, like you were saying. What's interesting to me, I think, about this year is it looks like there's going to be so it looks like the weather is going to be tough, like just bad weather generally speaking. But the thing that slightly concerns me more from a DFS side than a card construction, and more from a I hope they can get 72 holes in, is the wind looks like it's going to be whipping Thursday and Friday, which I don't think is very typical for this part of I've followed this tournament for a long time. Similar, like I can't remember like a round where I was looking and I saw like 20-mile-per-hour gusts on Thursday, which is a lot for this area. So I think, to your point, that only is going to emphasize, I think, hitting fairways more in terms of driving that value up, because you're not going to want to miss in the rough here. And then just Donald Ross courses in general. One of my buddies is in the chat here. He said Echo Lake CC, Donnie Buckets. That's a Jersey course where my dad's a member. We used to play growing up, but a lot of false fronts and stuff with Donald Ross too. It gets pretty tricky around the greens on his course designs. So that's just like one other kind of smaller tidbit I'd point out. But I think we're very aligned in terms of who we think, the types of guys we want, and how we think this course is going to play.
Yeah. So what's interesting about this course, I think, is players club down a lot, and it's not necessarily because it's really hard to hit fairways. I think the fairways are pretty generous, but the penalty is so severe for missing them. And the reason that is not so much that you have these super narrow, impossible to hit fairways. It's that the angle into the greens almost kind of narrows as you come in with trees, and some of them are really perched up. So you hit it maybe 5-6 yards into the rough, and it can leave you like no angle to over half the green. And I think that when you mention 20 mile an hour, 25 mile an hour gusts, that only shrinks the diameter of the greens. It changes the lines you have to take into them. I think it continues to put an emphasis on proper driving accuracy. And then if you do so, because the course isn't long, if you take a 3-iron or a 4-iron or a hybrid off the tee and you're in the fairway, you're going to have 160 yards in, which is extremely doable for these players from the fairway. A lot of wedges, a lot of 9-irons. Over, I think, 3/4 of the shots come from inside 175 yards. So let's get to the board. Let's talk through some players who we may want to bet this week. Top of the board for the Wyndham, Mr. Wyndham, Mr. Form, 14-1, Sung Jae Im. Right behind him, Open Championship runner-up Billy Horschel, 25-1, Shane Lowry, 25-1, Siwoo Kim, 25-1, Harman, Cam Young are 30-1. Kyle, I know that you and a bunch of other people who had access to FanDuel absolutely slayed and probably got their bookmaker fired this week as they left the odds the same, removing these top guys from the boards for guys down. But have you made any plays at the top where you wanted the early people to catch a Sung Jae 16? What are your thoughts here on the favorites?
Yeah, so I don't know what FanDuel was doing this week. It was very, very odd. I can get into that a little bit, but I started the card with Billy Ho. And it was, look, I like Sung Jae. Sung Jae makes the world of sense. He checks every single box you want him to check. He's got the great form. He's got the great course history. He's hit, not only does he great form, stats look great too. Like, he's hitting the ball incredibly well. You want him on these kind of fairway green putting contest courses. It all shapes up for Sung Jae, and that's great to me. To me, I like you as you know from being in this game for so long, you cannot bet everybody. And I'm a big believer that you just don't bet favorites in golf and win long term consistently. Yeah. Now, that's not to say that favorites don't hit. That's not to say that there's look at Scotty Scheffler, who's been ripping our hearts out this year. So there's merit to that, but Sung Jae is a prolific top 10, top 5 guy. He hasn't won since the Honda, I think in 2021. I want
the last win. Did he win Shriners after that?
He might have won Shriners as well. I'll look that up.
It's been a while, either way.
It's been a while. And I want to see it. Like, I'll let him beat me if that makes sense. So okay. Yeah, I mean his last one, you were right, Shriners 2021. I forgot about that one. So, but he hasn't won since 2021, and I'll kind of let him beat me as the favorite. Makes a lot of sense. Scary kind of fade, I guess you could say, but not as scary as fading Scotty every week, and that's kind of my rationale. Billy Ho, I think it is a guy who I think he's really on the up and up. He's reunited with his coach, who he was up to world number 4 with. He really is a guy who he's also a guy who, when he was the guy we know him to be, he won a lot of tournaments. He was a guy who would win a tournament or two a year. And I kind of like that about him. I kind of like the 25-1. I like the fact that he's had 2 of his 3 best major finishes of his life in this year. And also as a win this year. I think he's really ready to get back to the Billy Ho he used to be, gain something like 10 strokes, ball striking, which is very un-Billy Horschel-like, and some of that's to do with the weather you get over there and the wave splits you get over there. But still putting up the numbers he did was very, very impressive. Driver, kind of somewhat of a putting contest. He has the sticky course history. He's even a guy that if this course does play a little tougher, I don't hate that for him, because he's such a good scrambler. He's so good at getting up and down. So it's really just it's a marriage of the form and the course history, which I think in the world we live, the world we continue to bet in, it's like kind of that easy layup you're looking for, and no, it's not always that easy. A lot of times it's the opposite. It's way harder than that. But he was a good person, a good number to start my card out. So that's where I went up top.
Okay, I respect that. Okay, so I didn't get as much down as I wish I would have got down, but I have a little piece of Sung Jae at 16.
Okay.
I thought about Horschel. I'm kind of doing this thing this week where I'm sort of taking the Open and the Scottish just because I feel they're so different than what we're seeing this week, and I'm kind of just like throwing it out. Like if a player played awesome like Billy, I'm giving him a nod for that, but I want to see what he was doing before that.
Yep.
And it was okay. There was one top 20 in 4 starts. He was losing strokes on approach pretty consistently, which is a little bit troublesome for me. And Sung Jae, to me, even before he played pretty good at the Open and played pretty good at the Scottish, T7 and T4, he's also doing it in PGA Tour tournaments. 12th at the Deere, 3rd at the Travelers, 8th at Memorial, 9th at Charles Schwab. He, on the other hand, is crushing it with approach. He's figured out the driver again, right? So he's hitting like 66% of fairways over his last 24 rounds, which I think has really allowed him to accentuate his strength with his iron play. Checks the box on course history. Ironically, the best course history in the entire field over the last 5 years is Billy Horschel, though, which is something that you have to consider. I would never have won that DFS contest if Billy Horschel would have won in – was it 2020 where he finished second? The only reason I won is because Jim Herman ended up posting early and beat Billy Horschel, and nobody played Jim Herman. So all the people that had Horschel at 1, he kind of blew that lead late. But those, I think, are the top 2 guys there. I thought about Harmon. I don't think I'm going to get there. I have no interest in Cameron Young right now. I can't do it.
I actually just need to interrupt you to say you need to show me, now that you told me Jim fucking Herman was in that lineup, I need you to show me that lineup.
No, Jim Herman was not. I didn't even have the winner.
Oh, I was like, oh my God. No, so Jim Herman was like probably like 0 point whatever percent owned, and then he won, and that totally took the first place points from whoever was going to win.
Horschel.
Yeah, put you back.
Everyone in like the top 20 had Horschel, and when they got those first place points knocked off when he blew that and Herman won, like I had other guys who like I just moved up, so I didn't even have first.
Awesome.
That lineup, I had it up. I'll tell you who it was. It was Webb, it was Sung Jae, super highly owned. It was Siwoo Kim was in there. My boy Denny McCarthy was in that lineup. Mark Hubbard was 2% owned, and really the guy who did it for me, a T3 at sub 10% owned, Doc Redman.
Wow, the Doc.
What a lineup, baby.
The Doc. Oh my God. So like the 5 other guys, and Doc Redman's a North Carolina guy, right? Am I making that up?
He is. Yeah, Clemson
right?
guy. I think he went to school at.
Yeah, so he was a really, he had a great amateur career, and he
was playing well then. It was like his second year. He was kind of consistent then.
Yeah, he's not. The Doc's falling off a little bit, but that lineup is sick, and that lineup is like the 5 other guys. It's like I think when I was with John this weekend, he kept saying he's just playing the hits this week. Like that's a Wyndham hits lineup. Like that's like your guys who are just attacking fairways and greens and rolling the rock well. So. Love to see that.
More on those guys later. But right behind them in this next range, I made my biggest bet, even bigger than Sung Jae. I kind of feel like Davis Thompson is like a stud in the making. 35 to 1. I think he's one hell of a player, especially if I'm willing to write off, like I said, the Open and the Scottish, where I don't feel like he has any probably links history. You take away those 2 events. In his previous 6 starts on the PGA Tour, he has 2 second place finishes and a first. He's playing awesome. He also has a T9 at the US Open. So in his previous 6 starts, 9th, 2nd, first. The guy is slaughtering it right now, tee to green. Just won at the John Deere on a short, similar course that you can go out and kind of hunt for birdies. Sea Island guy, should be very familiar and comfortable on Bermuda grass and in these sort of conditions. I just think that he's a great play at 35-1, and he's my favorite bet of the week.
I love it. I mean, I was we were talking. So I was on him at John Deere, which was awesome. I was also on him one of his second place finishes.
The Rocket, maybe.
Yeah, he's a Walker. You know this, but like just to back up yourself, he's a Walker Cup guy. He's one of these really highly touted well, he's no longer an amateur. I think it's his second or third year on tour, but he was kind of a little slow out the gates. He had some big finishes even last year and the year prior, but was a very highly touted, regarded kid coming out of Georgia who had a lot of pedigree. And I think he's really ready to make this next step. And I really think he could push. This is what I was going to say we were talking about. I think he could push for a President's Cup spot if he keeps playing well. So I love it. I love the Sea Isle connection. I think he's shown he can actually play well on some of these. He's a guy who I think a driver's a weapon for him, but there's some guys, like I always use Cam Davis as the example, who are incredible drivers, but also good on these club down courses. And a lot of that's because they're not hitting. They hit the ball so far that they're able to hit like a 3-wood out there just as far as most guys are hitting driver. And then their next shot in is a lesser club as well. So it actually can be a big advantage if you do play the course in a more cerebral way and you don't just pound driver. So I love the Davis Thompson play. High on him just long term, I think, like you were saying as well. So I really like that. I'm not on him, but that pick makes the world of sense to me. And I think
you take Cam Davis?
My next guy was Rye.
Okay. Yeah. Makes total sense there.
The next guy I took was Rye. Two reasons why. Really, I haven't been. I keep referring. It was just funny because I was with all these guys past weekend. John gave like the greatest. I have to give him the props for it. Like, I'm not betting Rye because of myself. Like, John gave like the greatest sell ever on Rye. Like, literally just like looked at his results relative to Lucas Glover's results last year in terms of leading up. And then Lucas Glover had one letdown spot. I think it was at the Open as well, or it was at the Scottish Open, and then came back and won. It just very similar in that regard. Rye got caught in the bad wave, like in the Open. So you can kind of write that off. You were saying some quirkiness in terms of the Open, which, I said Billy Ho gained 10 strokes. So you could really bring it right back at me in terms of, saying, well, Kyle, you bet Billy Ho. And, so, but no, Rye was really playing great golf leading up to the Open. And I just love him on these fairways, these courses where it's going to be a total driving accuracy wedge fest. And for him, what always kills him is the putter, and his putter has really flipped recently this year. So I think if he can marry that all up, it's a great spot for him. And another guy who I didn't make this bet because of this. Another guy, if it does get a little dicey, I like him in some of these dicier, windier conditions where he has such good control over his ball that he shouldn't be playing from a lot of danger. So he was my second guy in at 40-1, and I caught him in that without market because FanDuel was asleep. So without Billy Ho, Shane Lowry, Siwoo Kim, Sung Jae Rai was 40-1. He was 40 in the with market. So again, I don't know what they were doing, but that was what I grabbed him at.
It's incredible. One of only two players in the field that I have in the top 8 in terms of approach and driving accuracy numbers. Having a fantastic year would make total sense. Got to trust John at the Wyndham too. Like another one of the Wyndham whisperers out there. Had the Kisner call all time, Mount Rushmore call on golf Twitter.
He was telling me about that one. I didn't know about that, but
dude. John was on. I got to credit John because he came on the show maybe like a month ago and really turned both of our years around. We were talking about this last week. We were both just moaning about how awful of a season we have, and then we started to round up a few winners in a row. So shout out my boy PGA Tout. If he's on Rye, you got to consider it, especially at the Wyndham. You mentioned tough weather conditions. I got to say, like, if it gets windy and starts raining sideways, and Billy Ho throws that hat on backwards, this thing may be over because his strokes gained backwards hat is like +6 around.
Yeah. I tweeted during the Open when he was going off. Backwards hat Billy is an assassin.
He's a slayer.
Yeah. So his strokes gained. I think the one time he turned the cap backwards were great. So I'm rooting for that. I would love to see Billy Ho play well this week.
All right. A couple of guys here I just want to ask you about.
Yep.
So Luke Clanton's 55-1. I think his DFS price is going to be no for me. Although, like, I'm starting to get behind this thing of like, just it's kind of why I got in Johnny Vegas. Like, just quit playing with your heart and just trust like the data and what it's telling you that guys are playing. I think he's just a bomber in my eyes when I'm watching, like, young kid just hits it really far, playing kind of reckless. This dude, it hits a ton of fairways. His approach play is unbelievable. I think his talent is there, but I just think, like, you know, from a DFS perspective, when he's priced in a range, like, where's he at in DFS?
What's he, 85 or 86 this week? I think something along those lines.
And I just saw it. He's 8,600. I think Thompson is so much more talented than him. Like, even if you go below and you look at another like kid the same age and Nick Dunlap, like, Dunlap's got 2 wins.
Yeah.
Like, and we're gonna get. Like, I just think he's been crowned a little bit. And the other one I wanted to ask you about is Jordan Spieth. A lot on the line probably for Spieth this week. Clearly mentioned earlier today that he's probably all systems headed for off-season wrist surgery. Weird year for Spieth because I have him 145th in scrambling in the field of 155. Like, a couple of years ago, I would have told you he's like one of the best scramblers in the world. This guy can scramble from anywhere. He can pull rabbits out of hats. He sucks at scrambling now. But I got him in the top 30 in driving accuracy. Like, where did this come from? Weird time. He's currently outside the top 50, which technically he's out of elevated in events next year, but he'll probably get the Webb Simpson call up in most cases. But just, you know, kind of on a number where he needs to play well, like his friend Justin Thomas needed to play well here last year. Could really use a good week. Decent number if you want to take that chance. Like, you have a take on either one of those guys you like or don't like?
Yeah, I'm not on either of them. I'm completely out on Spieth right now. Like, I think like you were so right. And some of this I think is probably the injury, just like playing golf. Like, I know a wrist injury cannot be good for hitting iron shots, and you can probably hit the driver a little better with the wrist, and maybe that's why. You know, we've seen some lackluster iron stats and some solid driving stats. He did seem to like find something like a year and a half ago with the driver. I think a little pre wrist injury. He was like striking the ball great, and he was really struggling with his putter for a while before this injury, and then this injury happened, and the stats have been super weird. I'm with you. I mean, like, Spieth is in our lifetime, he's probably like a top 5 and probably not 5, 4, 3 in terms of around the green players in our lifetime. Like, he has that. He hits you're spot on. He hits those shots where Spieth is, you know, he's completely dead and he hits this shot to 2 feet and you're like, well, that's just Jordan Spieth, you know, just Jordan Spieth doing Jordan Spieth things. So he doesn't seem to have that this year. He doesn't seem to have a lot of confidence. He's a guy who gets in his head, I think, very easily. So it's a lot of like things that I don't like that I can see just like getting in his head with the injury, with the fact that he thinks he has to play well, and all of that stuff. So I'm out on him. I'm a long-term buyer of Clanton, but I think what you said is right. I think it's a little bit too much of a price to pay. I don't hate the 55. I think that is there.
Yeah, bigger than I saw as well.
But yeah, I don't know. Like you said, like Dunlap's won twice. Like, is he really where's Dunlap for DFS this week? Dunlap's 7,500. He's won twice.
Yeah.
Clanton's 86. Yeah. He hasn't won. And it's just odd. I think it's an overprice. I think you're overpaying. And it's not to say this guy can't win. It's not to say this guy isn't a great talent, but I'd rather put my money elsewhere this week personally.
Okay. I'll rattle off a couple that I have in this sort of long shot-ish range beyond 60 to 1, say. One of them, look, if you follow this show, you already know who I'm going to mention right
Denny
now.
McCarthy.
Of course, I took Denny McCarthy. I talked to him last year on the pod. He told me this is like one of his favorite courses. I'm throwing away the Open and the Scottish. He was never going to play well in Europe. He's never going to play well in links golf. Before that, he kind of resurrected his season a little bit. 6th at the Wells Fargo, 32nd at the U.S. Open, 31st Traveler, 7th at the John Deere. Started to get it going back in a decent direction with the approach play. Had really good course history here. Essentially before last year, he had a really bad missed cut, but I know he was dealing with an injury at the time. And the other one is Adam Svensson. I got at 90 to 1. Similar for me. I just, I hit him at the RSM, which isn't far from here, at a big number, around the same. 7th place last year at this tournament, has been playing reasonably solid. He's a really accurate driver, and he hits his short irons really well, which is what always gets me on him on these courses that are like, if it's 7,600 yards, Svensson ain't going to play well. He's got to hit 4 and 5 iron because he's not long off the tee. If it's 7,000, 7,100 yards, he can play well because he's going to hit the fairway. And if you give him a 9 iron, he's a flusher. So those are 2 guys that I have in this sort of range. And I've got one other. Super Bomb. You got anyone here for me, Kyle?
I have 4 more bets, and they're all under here. In under 60 to 1. And I left room because I wanted to ride one guy with you, and I already think I know who that is. I think I'm going to ride Denny with you because you're a Denny guy. You were kind enough to bring me on the show. And what I was going to say about the Denny bet is I don't like betting Denny at like 30 to 1 in these events where like he is more of the class. Like it just doesn't taste right to me. Like betting Denny at 30.
He was like 30 at the John Deere and he wasn't playing great.
Yeah. I love it. No, that's what I'm saying. I love it. I love it here. I love the course type. I love the course fit. Everything. Like if you're going to bet Denny, to me, it's like you get him at like a positional course where you need to roll your rock. And if he's upward of 50 to 1 in those fields, that's when I like to bet him. So I think that's going to be the guy I add. Okay. I also like the other guy you mentioned, but for me, so this guy I've been riding for a while. I had him and I joked that this was the worst beat ever that Vegas won and he didn't, but I had Grayserman. It was not a bad beat at all. Grayserman was like 8 back heading into Sunday. Vegas stalled out, but Grayserman won his qualifier for the U.S. Open a few weeks ago. I think it was like 6 or 7 weeks ago now. And since he's won that qualifier, he hasn't missed a cut. He's gotten better in every single start. And he almost won 3M, I want to say. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Yeah. 3M. He is a guy who can get very, very hot with the putter. He's a guy who is an incredible driver of the golf ball. I'm actually curious to see if he clubs down a little bit this week because of how good of a driver he is. But he's just it's a form play. He doesn't have the course history, so he's one of the few guys here. Actually, two guys here that I played that don't really have great course history. Mm-hmm. Him being one of them. Well, no course history, so not great. It's nothing course history. But I just like the combination. I told you at the beginning of the show, I'm looking for guys that hit a lot of fairways. I'm looking for guys that can get hot with the putter. He's kind of that combination. Then you look at the way he's been hitting the ball with the irons. Everything for him looks good to me in the statistical profile. Like another thing I like to do, like he was 60 to 1 at 3M. He came in second and he's 65 to 1 at Wyndham. So like to me, like a lot of times those guys get overinflated and it's hard to go back to. Yeah. But I don't have a hard time jumping off a guy I've been on for a while at basically the same number he's been at for a while now. So He was the next guy. I went with Eric Cole at 70. I just think that, we'd be, a few months ago, we'd be, maybe fighting our landlords or something to not have to pay our rent checks and put that on Cole if he was 70 to 1. Just, I'm kidding. But he I think if you look at his stats in his past few starts, he's found the irons again, which I like. He's a guy who I like I like on courses where you have to roll the rock well, make a lot of birdies. For him, the one thing that's worrisome is he can get loose with the driver. He did play well here in his one start, so it's kind of just like a buyback almost for him. Like I think it's a good number to buy back into him on. I'll give my last guy under 100. I'll save my bomb. But Ben Griffin, I took at 80. Just a course history / course. I don't even know if he has the greatest course history. I think he has 1 start here or 2 starts here. I think he played well in one of the starts. I'll pull that up.
Fourth in 2022, top 5.
Fourth in 2022. So one good start here. He's a Carolina guy. I just think he's a guy you want to play on these types of courses, fairways and greens. Like I think if you look at like the structure of my card, like most of the guys, the only guy who really pummels the ball is Gracerman. But he's also a really straight driver of the ball. So it was really just, again, I want guys who aren't going to be losing. I don't want guys who are going to lose the tournament for me off the tee here, because I think that's the easiest place you can lose it. So those are the guys I have under 100, and I'll save the last guy.
Yeah, Griffin is an incredible putter from like 5 to 15 feet, which I think is extremely helpful in these types of tournaments. If you look at his percent, like PGA Tour average from that range is below 50%. He's incredible there. I also, the other two were who?
The other two were
Gracerman. I have a take on Gracerman. Phil once said, like in an interview, I think with Faraday, that like in order to be good, you have to be like hyper smart and aware of like everything, or just like dumb. Gracerman, what he did at the 3M, I've never seen anything like that. First of all, he goes on with Amanda Balionis, and he thinks the leaders are on, like, he doesn't even care. He thinks they're on like the 14th hole. He thinks Matt Kuchar is still in the lead, and Vegas is in the lead by like 2 on 17. He wasn't even watching. Like, his caddy's not even filling him in where these guys are at on the course. Then he's playing ping pong, which is one of the most outrageous moves I've ever seen, when clearly everyone knows you got to be on the range then. Like, just the sheer, like, I don't know if it's just like dumb or just like I don't care, but I kind of love that about him, and I think that could serve him really well. And who was the other guy in between those two?
Cole,
yeah. I didn't get the great betting number on him. I think that everyone's going to play him in DFS, but Cole hard cash games, like you're in cash games, go Eric Cole. Safe bet there. Who's your super bomb?
My super bomb is Ben Coles.
Okay. I was on him at the 3M.
Yeah, and
he was in it for a while.
I think he's doing some good stuff. I think he's a driving accuracy savant, which I like. He's one of the top driving accuracy guys in the field for me by my numbers. He's a guy who can roll the rock. He's been rolling the rock actually a lot better recently than he was earlier in the season. I don't think he has like great course history here or on comp courses, because I think I brought this up in front of the Lake Placid squad, and it was well received by some, not as well received by others. But he hasn't played well on like comp courses, but like I think this is the type of course you want him at. Like I don't think you want him at like really long, difficult tracks, even though he did have like one big finish, I think maybe at the US Open or the PGA. One of those majors, he had like he popped randomly. I just kind of like him on these style of courses. Another Carolina guy, I'm pretty sure. And I just think like 150 to 1 there, like this is a tournament where guys like that can win. I wanted one longer shot guy on my card because of that. And he, in terms of like what I was looking at in my model, in terms of putting splits, in terms of accuracy, in terms of kind of how he's been hitting the ball, the model loved him this week. Oh, I had one more guy I forgot to mention.
Let it rip.
Also above 100. I think I really I might like this one more than Cole's. This is probably my favorite bet of the week if it's just by the numbers. Putnam is checking every box for me right now. He's gained 15 strokes on approach in his last 2 starts. That's Andrew Putnam. Last 2 starts, he's gained 15 strokes on approach, 8 in one, 7 in the other. He has been incredible with his irons lately. He is not a great iron player, which is why I like him. He's got 2 top 30s here. I got him at 110. I got him in that without market. Just seemed like a good
it's a huge number. Yeah, he's down to 80-1 with those guys.
Yeah, so I really liked the number I was able to get on him. That is the complete card for this week. And then I have a few Olympic shouts, but for my gals. Yeah.
My super bomb is 225-1. A guy who has gained, 7.6, 3.3. He's gained like 11 strokes on approach in his last 2 starts. Gained 5 strokes on approach here last year. Made 3 out of his last 4 cuts here. His last 3 starts, he lost in a playoff in one of them. Missed a cut and T9 at the 3M. Carolina boy Matt Neesmith.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Rico Hoey. I jumped the gun.
He was in the playoff with Rico. I thought he was going to win that too because he actually was he had like the closest putt to win that playoff like twice before he ultimately lost.
I had Rico Hoey.
Can't really putt, but he's I just like him on positional courses. He's clearly trending. Gained 12 strokes at the ISCO, gained 9 strokes at the 3M. I remember I was on him 2 years ago at the Valspar, which is also another like club down, like got to be in the fairway positional course. Finished 3rd there. 225-1, big prices on a top 20, top 40 there. Really, what I have left for you, Kyle, who won the most money in Lake Placid? Who took home the dirt?
Not me, but I have two. There's funny stories all there. But one thing to back up your Matt Neesmith pick. I'm just a sponge. I listen to like all this crap, all this content. I'm literally addicted to golf and listening to everything. So I heard on it was Inside Golf. I don't know who said if it was Andy or his guests. Matt Neesmith, not great course history, but he won the junior Wyndham Championship at this course. So another good
no idea.
Plug
awesome.
to your bet, and he's in great form.
Yes,
I am the worst golfer out of the 4. It wasn't even close. John and I had some success together. Andy and I lost a match on 18, and Brian and I, when we played together, Brian and I were the 2 worst. We got absolutely waxed. I was being a little bit of a crybaby because I was like, this is fucking bullshit. You guys are hitting the ball 100 yards past us. And we played 36 one day. I was a little cranky because I wasn't playing that well in the second 36, but I would say we played 4 matches. I was 1-3. However, I'm the worst one there. I won the first match on the 18th hole with like an incredible shot. Like for me, a shot that like I can talk to people about for a while. So like I hit my drive out of bounds on 18, and I was line 3, nuke a 3-wood, and then I'm like 70 yards out, and I need to get up and down. And I hit a pitching wedge to like 3 feet. And it was pouring rain on 18, which was kind of funny as well. So we won. John and I won the first match, which was, I think, the best match on 18. Andy and I lost a heartbreaker the next day. And Andy hit an incredible shot. I hate even saying this, Andy, if you're listening, put your hands over your ears. I'm sorry. He hit the ball to like 3 or not 3 feet. It was probably 5 feet for birdie. And he just pushed the putt to push the match on 18. So we lost on 18 when I played with Andy. And then again, Brian and I got waxed. John and I played pretty closely, and then we doubled down on 18, and we won the 18th hole, which took a little bit back. So
good old press.
Yeah, little press on 18. It was an absolute blast. It's always good. That's part of even meeting you tonight. Like I've listened to your content before. I know you're just a very good guy. You're a fun follow on Twitter. I feel like there's so many guys like that and girls like that in the golf Twitter space. So that's part of what makes it so great. We all kind of love golf, and we all love betting on golf. We all love talking about golf. So it's a really, really fun knit community. So
yeah, shout out to the boys. Hope you guys had a great time in Lake Placid. Kyle, awesome talking to you tonight. thank you for coming on the show. You were fantastic. You're a natural at this, brother. So I appreciate the heck out of you. Best of luck this week at the Wyndham, and we'll talk soon, pal.
All right. Best of luck to
See
you
you,
as
buddy.
well, sir. See ya.
All right, gang. Thanks for hanging with me throughout this show. This show will be live and posted for all your audio pleasures on Spotify and Apple shortly. If you are watching this on YouTube, you better be subscribed to the Preferred Lines channel. Leave me a comment who is your pick to win. Nobody inside 30-1. All right. Don't take a favorite. Give me your pick to win the Wyndham. Leave it in the comment here. Make sure to like this video on the way out and tell a friend. It means the absolute world to me. You guys are the best. This has been Preferred Lines. I'm out of here. Good luck at the Wyndham. Peace out, gang.